Over the past few months or so, the Ebola virus has really made such a huge fuss in American media, and the beat coverage of the recently contracted American-bound virus has only begun to slowly die out over the past couple of weeks. And the spread of Ebola into American territory and perhaps the blown out of proportion media coverage, it has struck fear into thousands of Americans. However, I am here to assure anybody that Ebola is not to be feared. It should not be taken lightly. The virus measures in at nearly 90% mortality rate. However, the Ebola virus deems nothing to stress about. And panicking about this virus is just simply unnecessary, for it's fragile. American hospitals have all the resources to contain it, and a patient is only contagious if he or she shows symptoms of Ebola. And number one, the Ebola virus is very fragile. And according to Forbes, the virus does not travel airborne easily, and is hard to transfer from human to human. It may only be contracted through body fluids such as blood, semen, vomit, feces, etc. And these body fluids would also have to find its way into another host's body through breaks in the skin or mucous membranes. And Fox News stated that 2 Texas healthcare nurses contracted the Ebola from treating a man infected with Ebola who later died. These nurses contracted the virus while treating Thomas Duncan, a man who caught it while in West Africa. And these nurses caught the virus as a result of breached protocol, and both nurses are now cured. And symptoms of Ebola do include vomiting, bleeding, and diarrhea, all possible gateways of exposure, and that's according to NBC News. And Ebola in West Africa spread like wildfire because health workers themselves did not even have the resources or the protective wear to properly treat the virus. And number two, American hospitals have all the resources to contain the Ebola virus. 2 Americans who contracted the virus in West Africa, not the 2 nurses, were flown to Emory Hospital as soon as possible, which is in Atlanta, in an airplane with its own isolated pod. And this method of isolation would also be very useful for transferring sick patients from local hospitals to healthcare centers who may be better in treating the Ebola, such as Emory Hospital. And although these are specialized hospitals for Ebola, any major medical center may take care of a patient suffering with Ebola. The National Library of Medicine states that although the virus holds no rock-solid cure, several treatment options are available. And these include blood transfusions, blood pressure management, oxygen, and fluids given through a vein. And these methods can be used by almost any medical center in the United States. And my final point, a person is only contagious if he or she is showing symptoms of Ebola. Now, symptoms don't usually show up until 2 to 21 days of exposure, but that doesn't matter because that person is not contagious until he or she actually starts showing the symptoms, and by then that person should be in isolation. And as one can see, the Ebola has not inflicted any catastrophic damage on American soil. If this virus still worries anybody, all it has to do is to rid possibilities even further. Just wash hands and disinfect. And my visual aid is a world map, and it's hard to see, but here is Africa, and as you can see in the center is a dark red. That's where most of the virus has taken place. And then here in America is a very light red, and so that only means that it has lightly been transferred over, but there is nothing to worry about, I assure you.